This is a pre-recorded FastCast, so for your reference purposes, I've included an audio-visual table of contents. Thank you. Hi, and thanks for joining us. This is the second EngineRoom FastCast brought to you by Morstein.com. Today we're going to talk about tips and tricks for chart customizations and showcasing your findings in EngineRoom. My name is Gabe Turk. I'm the Retail Accounts Marketing Manager, and I'll be guiding us through this FastCast. So let's begin. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is different ways that you can add notes to any of the studies that you have inside of EngineRoom. So I'll open up a study that I have already created here. I have a control chart here. And along this top area here, you'll see that there is a section where I can write notes. You'll see there's a number 1 by it. That's going to represent that I've already written a note there, but I can write more if I'd like. So I'll click that notes, and my study will flip around, and I'll be able to type new notes, hit enter, and the new note will populate. It'll also let me know when the last time that these particular notes were made. So you'll see that I made one 2 days ago, and you'll see that I made one a few seconds ago. If I want to get rid of any old notes, I can hit the trash can button. This is a particularly useful tool if you wanted to track down what you were looking at a particular time, maybe making notes to yourself, or if you're working in a shared project, this is a really good way to communicate with your coworkers on what you're trying to do within this analysis, and maybe share each other's findings, or maybe you see something that someone else doesn't. That's something that you could type in this notes area here. Another way that you can write notes within any of these charts tools is you can use the Annotate button. So just above the chart, there's going to be 3 options, and we'll go over all of those today, but the first one I want to talk about is this Annotate. So if I hit Annotate, I'll get this red turnaround, and now I'll have a cursor that I could take onto my chart. And I might click once and say I want to make a note right here, so I'll say, look at these points. I can change the size using this drag here, and then I can also change the colors. So now I've got this purple note, and I want to maybe point out that there are these 2 points that have been highlighted within this control chart. I can X out, and that's how I can make a note. Another thing that you can do, which is kind of an outside-of-the-box way to use notes within EngineRoom, but still something you can do, I'll close out this. I'm going to open up an affinity diagram. It's one of the better free typing tools within EngineRoom, though it does have its function as a typical affinity diagram would regarding its use in a Lean Six Sigma project. You can also use it for notes. So let's say I wanted to make some different categories or some different headings. I can just use this categories box to make these lanes here, and then I can add notes. So I have these little post-it notes that I can add and type information within. Maybe this is something that you use in a shared project to kind of set the parameters of what you're trying to do, so that way anybody that opens up the project understands what we're looking at. Maybe you would rename the affinity diagram Notes Regarding Project. So now you can click off, and anybody will be able to go to Notes Regarding Project and open up the notes that you've taken with the affinity diagram tool. So again, that's a little bit of a unique usage of the affinity diagram tool within EngineRoom, but still something that you could do. All right. So the next thing I want to do is talk about the different kind of chart customizations that we can make. So aside from adding notes, there are some things that we can do around the chart area. So if I click on any of the names that follow on the title area or on the axes, I can start typing again and change the size just as I did my notes earlier, and choose any color that I want. I can also do that if I want to rename my y-axis. Start typing here, or if I want to rename my x-axis, I can start typing here and do the same thing in terms of changing the side with the slide bar. Another thing that we can do if we want to change the way that this data series appears on this chart, I can hit the edit button. And to do that, I'm going to make my screen a little bit smaller so that way we can take a full look at it. So if I hit edit, you're going to see that I'm going to get preferences. Using the axis preferences, I'll be able to change the scaling of my y-axis and of my values. And then with the data series preferences, depending on what kind of chart I'm using, I'll be able to customize the color and the size of my lines. So for instance, if I hit UCL for my upper control limit, I can turn off the defaults by clicking that, and then change the thickness. I can change the color if I wanted to. Let's say we want to change it to blue. And then I can also change the style. So if I'd like to make it a dashed line, I can make it a dashed line. And in the instance of when you have something like a line graph or something like that, you can change what kind of appearance you have of the dots. Maybe if you have like a scatter plot, instead of them being circles, you could have gears or hexagons, so on. And so I can choose to make this my default if I thought that this is the way that I want all of my charts to typically appear. Otherwise, I can just click off, and now that's what this chart will look like. Now what I can do, that I've made some customizations with my chart, and I've made sure my title is named the way that I want it to be named, and likewise my axes are okay, and I like the way that this is scaled, I can hit the snapshot button, and this red box is going to turn around again. And what that's going to enable me to do is right-click the chart area, and I can save the image to my computer, or I could copy the image. If you're using a Mac, I suggest use copying. If you're using a PC, I would say to use the save image as. Save this image to your computer. I'll save it to my desktop. And then I could go into something like PowerPoint or email, Microsoft Word, anything like that, and I'd be able to take this downloaded image of this chart and paste it directly into that PowerPoint. So that's a good way that you can use the snapshot tool and some of the other customizations to prepare a chart for a presentation. The next thing that I want to show is the different ways that you can customize the different callouts that you get, the different statistical callouts on certain statistical tools. So you'll see on all the stat tools, there's going to be a show options button here on the right. There are a few that don't, but the lion's share do. If I hit show options, I'll get this pull down. And depending on what statistical tool there is, there's going to be different options that I can select from. So in regards to this control chart that I have, I can change the way that the chart is displayed. I can maybe use the median moving range for control limits. I could turn that on or off, and that will rerun my statistics after I turn it on, and we might see some changes. I could also go to X-chart tests, for instance, and you'll see here that I have turned on number 2, 9 points in a row on the same side of the center line. Typically, this is going to be turned off, but I chose to turn it on just so we could kind of see what happens with the graphs. I'm going to turn it off, but the one thing that I want to note before I hit Save Changes, once I turn this off, hit Save Changes, any kind of modifications I made to the chart in terms of axis labels or callouts or the title or anything like that, those are all going to revert back to the standard look of an EngineRoom output. So just to note, make sure that this is something that maybe you do first before you make any changes. So that way any changes you do make, they'll be saved and you can put them into a presentation. So I'm going to hit Save Changes. It's going to rerun the statistics for me. And you'll notice that everything has gone back to normal in regards to my labels. And also those 2 red points that were highlighted are gone. That's because I've turned that rule off. So those will exist in things like multiple regression as well. There's a lot of different rules in all of the different statistical tools. So always check out show options. And the last thing I want to touch on in regards to a typical study here applies to this top area here. So I'm going to talk about the print area and the files area. First, I'll go to files. On any chart or template that you use inside of EngineRoom, any study, you're able to upload files. So that could be an audio file, maybe a picture of a process or a picture of a product. Maybe you have a PowerPoint or something else that you want to share or associate with this study. You can just hit the Select New File button and take something off of your computer. So that will now be part of this study. I can hit Results. I can go back to my study. Lastly, with the Print button, this is another way that we can export everything from what we've done here. So this will work for statistical tools or template-based tools. I can select how many charts I want on a page, and I can also select the orientation of my layout. I could hit Print and print it to a printer, or I could also hit Print and save it to a PDF. And coming in January of 2016, we're going to be adding an icon here that will allow you to take any of your chart outputs for the statistical tools and push it directly to PowerPoint. So it would function the same way that we did to get to that dialog box. We would hit Print at that time, and then there'll be a PowerPoint icon somewhere in this dialog box that you'd be able to click. But just to note, that is something that's coming in January of 2016. So that kind of covers all of the customization that you can make to charts. The last thing I want to talk about is how you can use EngineRoom for a presentation. So whether you're hosting a GoToMeeting with a lot of coworkers, or you are just talking to somebody right behind you, or maybe you have your computer hooked up to a projector and you're presenting to a lot of people, there's a couple of things that you can do to present all of your findings. So if we're using this base screen, what I could do is open up all the studies that I was interested in showing people and double-click the hexagon, the dark blue hexagon, that's within each study. So you notice as I double-click that, they become smaller. So perhaps I had an order of things that I wanted to show people. I could prepare them here. And as I wanted to open up any of these, I could double-click them and show them my analysis. Another thing that you could do is use the critical thought map. It's labeled with a CTM at the very bottom left of your screen. When I hit that, it's going to turn around and you'll see that your main menu that was blue is now gold. What this is going to allow us to do is hover over and pull down questions that we're trying to answer. So for this particular one, it says, who are the customers? So let's say this is something that I was trying to solve. Regardless of using it as a presentation tool or just a project tool, the critical thought map is something that, as I show us, is something that will help bring up questions, show us the analyses, and kind of use it all as one consistent thought, right? So now that I've opened this question, what I can do is take studies that I've opened up already in this tool. So these are things that we were working on just a second ago. So maybe I want to take that control chart from earlier. I can take that control chart and plug it in right to this question. Now, of course, we all know that a control chart is probably not going to answer who my customers are. I'm just using this for the sake of showing how the tool functions. So once I've put a study on there, maybe there's another one that I want to associate. Maybe this affinity diagram helps me answer who my customers are. Once I have that, maybe I'll find my answer. So what I'm going to do is go to the custom dropdown and take new answer. And this green box will populate to this question. Now what I want to do is click once on my answer, and I'll get a notes thing, a little notes box. So I can type notes here, hit enter, and now that note maybe represents my answer to this question. I'll click it once again to close it. I can do the same with any of these hexagons. So if I want to click the who are the customers once, I can type some notes within that. Click it once to close it. And in terms of a presentation, perhaps instead of using what I showed us a moment ago on that first screen, I could just click once on these studies that I've opened up, maybe reconfigure the way it's laid out on my page, drop it down to the bottom here, and now I'll be able to look at a chart. Also, in regards to that affinity diagram, I'd be able to actually add new content to an affinity diagram right from here. I can also drag around my workspace the same way I would on the affinity diagram on the prior page. I'll click that once to close it, and that'll be okay. I can also rename this thought map too. So perhaps we do this several times to drag on certain studies, answer questions. Maybe we want to add this answer here and continue all the way through to show this one consistent tree or map of our thoughts. So this, again, could be used for presentations, or it's also a great driver for getting projects done and answering questions. So I appreciate your time and joining me today. That's the end of this FastCast. Look forward to an invite to the next FastCast where we'll talk about define tools. Soon, Morstein will be posting these onto the website, and we'll be able to answer any questions you might have in the meantime by sending me an email directly. So feel free to contact me at gturk@morstein.com, and I'll help answer any questions you have. So thanks again for joining me. I appreciate your time, and have a good day.